Hello and welcome back to Vault Holocron, where today I am going to cover the Queen of Ktath'atn. Okay, so I'm going to tackle this by diving into all of the comic issues her story is told through. So, she first shows up in the Screaming Citadel comic. In this story we have a pre-Empire Strikes Back Luke, wondering how to progress in the Force now that there is no one there to guide him. And we have Dr. Aphra, who at this point is a rogue archaeologist, who is carrying a valuable artifact that contains the consciousness of an ancient Force user. So you know, a standard day for the Star Wars universe. At the start of the comic issue, Luke is in a bar on Horrocks 3. As things would happen, it's a no-human bar, and some of the patrons begin picking a fight with Luke. Just as all hell is about to break loose, Dr. Aphra walks in, stating he's with me, and then proceeds to get slapped to the ground immediately. Luke and Aphra fight a few patrons. Aphra calls Ktath'atn and the fight is wrapped up pretty quickly. Now, let me interject some background on Luke and Aphra. Last time they met, Dr. Aphra kidnapped Luke, so, you know, they're not exactly on the best of terms. Luke understandably calls her evil, and doesn't want anything to do with her, until she reveals that she has figured out that he is a Jedi, and that she can find him a new master. With this, Luke hears her out, and Aphra explains how she has an artifact from an ancient Jedi temple that contains the archived personality of the Jedi Ruhr. She wants the artifact reactivated so that she can learn about history from someone who experienced it firsthand, and Luke wants it reactivated so that Ruhr can teach him how to become a Jedi. Luke can't reactivate the artifact, but Aphra knows this already. Aphra shares her plan. She and Luke will go to the Queen of Ktath'atn. Luke agrees to go with Aphra, and doesn't tell his friends, because they wouldn't like the idea of him working with her. Luke and Aphra arrive on Ktath'atn, the name translating roughly to be the Screaming Citadel in Galactic Basic. The Screaming Citadel?
Say that again?
When they step out of the ship, they see that the villagers are emaciated. Luke, Aphra, Ktath'atn, and Aphra's droids head to the Citadel. However, Ktath'atn is not allowed in, because the Queen is allergic to Wookiees. Back on Horrocks 3, Han Solo displays some droid racism. I'm not sure why he's casually dropping Clanker like L337 isn't embedded into his ship. Anyway, to the point. Leia, Han, and Sana Starros, with some struggle, find out from Luke's droid, S4, that Luke has gone off with Dr. Aphra. Given the group's history with Dr. Aphra, they assume that Luke has been kidnapped. Meanwhile, on Ktath'atn, Luke is stripped out. In the Citadel, Luke and Aphra mingle amongst guests, until the Queen presents herself. Then, various guests present prizes to the Queen, hoping to win her favour, and have a wish granted to them. After a while, Luke and Aphra have their turn, Aphra presenting Luke as her prize. The Queen immediately rejects Luke, finding him to be ordinary. Luke and Aphra then get into a fight with another member at the event, with Luke accidentally force pushing them. The Queen is impressed at this, and has the event closed prematurely, with only Luke and Aphra being allowed to stay. The Queen does some magic, and feeds on the life force of the people of Ktath'atn to build her strength. She plans to feed on Luke Skywalker. And that's the end of this issue. The next issue is Star Wars 31. This issue follows directly on from the ending of the last issue. We start with Han, Leia, and Sana Starros. Sana is Dr. Aphra's ex, so she knows Aphra quite well. She deduces that Aphra must have taken Luke to Ktath'atn. She figures this out because she knows that the Queen only takes guests for one day a year, and on that day she accepts strange and unique creatures from across the galaxy. Aphra could have brought Luke as a unique creature. The group then start heading to Ktath'atn. In the morning after the gathering on Ktath'atn, Luke and Aphra head to breakfast with the Queen. After a little bit of conversation, the Queen asks Luke to prove that he is a Jedi by opening some trays with the Force to reveal the Candy's rat monkey that they will be eating. Luke struggles with trying to open the trays, being unable to do it. So the Queen orders a knife to be put at his throat to give him the pressure he needs to succeed. While Luke is being pressured, Aphra realizes that there is no smell of candied rat monkey, so she tells Luke not to open the trays. However, Luke finally pushes out with the force, opening the trays, revealing a bursting symbiote. Organisms that take over a being's brain and motor functions. Luke and Aphra run away from the Queen and the bursting symbiotes. Dr. Aphra calls through to her droids, asking them to come save them. However, they say that they are indisposed. Aphra and Luke then run into a collection of creatures that the Queen has, each of them being controlled by a bursting symbiote. Luke and Aphra scream, and 000, Aphra's droid, asks whether they are allowed to murder rebels. Aphra's droids, 000 and BT, have got Han, Leia and Sana. And that's it for issue 2. The next issue is Dr. Aphra 7. This issue starts from where the last one ended. Luke and Aphra are running away from the Queen's creatures, and Aphra signals through to 000, telling them to come no matter what they've got going on. Luke decides that he will stand against the creatures and hold them off, so that Aphra can escape. At that moment, Aphra's ship crashes down, saving Luke and Aphra from the creatures. Aphra's droids and Luke's friends step out of the ship, Han blaming a poorly aligned aft thruster for the rough landing. Sana immediately shoots at Aphra. Luke blocks the shot, stating that Aphra's with him. Luke argues with his friends over whether they can trust Aphra, with Luke telling his friends that he trusts Aphra. The Queen's troops then attack, and the group head inside, hiding behind big strong doors. The group talk about the situation they are in, and Aphra takes Luke with her to check that some of the doors are sealed properly. Luke questions Aphra about her allegiance to the Empire, with Aphra telling him that any peace is better than a war. Aphra opens one of the sealed doors, revealing the Queen of Ktath'atn, betraying Luke. The Queen forces Luke to kneel with a trick of hers. Aphra then reveals that she snuck charges into Luke's pockets, and that if the Queen double-crosses her again, she will blow Luke sky high. The Queen agrees to help Aphra reactivate her crystal. Luke's friends then see what's going on and attack. The Queen takes Han, and then Leia, Sana and Aphra's droids retreat and seal themselves in another room. 000 then comes up with a plan. Bursting parasites don't like being attached to certain species. 000 plans to take an bursting parasite from a tube around them and implant it into Ktath'atn. The group head to quarantine, where they fight one of the Queen's guards, and 000 implants a symbiote into Ktath'atn. That's where issue 3 ends. Now, straight on to issue 4, Star Wars 32. Ktath'atn, having just had the symbiote attached to him, fights the Queen's guard, having become essentially a rabid Super Wookiee. This happens because the Wookiee species is too powerful to be controlled. Ktath'atn moves towards the droids, Leia and Sana. 000 redirects Ktath'atn towards the Citadel. The group begin following Ktath'atn towards the Citadel. In the Citadel, the Queen gives Dr. Aphra her artifact back, now reactivated, and tells Aphra to leave. Aphra asks what's going to happen to Luke, and whether he will receive a symbiote, to which the Queen replies that she has other plans for Luke. Luke is strapped to a contraption, which is allowing the Queen to feed on him. As Aphra heads out, Luke calls out to her. She orders that her troops go and kill Ktath'atn. The Queen attaches an bursting symbiote to Han Solo. The droids, Leia and Sana, are following Ktath'atn when they are attacked by Han Solo and some of the Queen's troops. Han Solo orders the droids to be destroyed and for Sana and Leia to be brought to him. The droids and Sana run off and Han captures Leia. Meanwhile, Aphra is moving to make her way off of Ktath'atn when the Jedi Ruhr from within her artifact speaks to her. He calls her out, telling her that she feels guilty over what she has done to Luke, despite the fact that she doesn't usually feel this way when betraying someone. Rua starts trying to convince Aphra to save Luke. At the Citadel, Han begins placing a symbiote on Leia, and Sana stops the droids from running away any further. Then, Ktath'atn destroys a bunch of the Queen's troops, and Sana attacks Han, saving Leia from the symbiote. Inside the Citadel, Luke tears free of the contraption, and ignites his lightsaber, swinging it at the Queen. However, she simply disappears, and rematerializes elsewhere, cutting Luke along the way. Then, with an explosion, Aphra enters the room. The explosion releases an Abersin symbiote that was being kept in a tank. Aphra reveals that she has worked out why the Abersin symbiote wasn't placed in Luke. The reason being that the strongest being rules over all of the other symbiotes. Luke, now with a symbiote attached to him, orders the Queen to bow before him. That's it for issue 4. Issue 5, the final issue, is next, and this issue is Dr. Aphra 8. This issue picks up where the last left off. Luke is demanding that the Queen obey him, but the Queen stands against him. Two of the higher-ups amongst the Queen's army realise that the Queen is using all of her effort to fight Luke, and now is no longer controlling everyone. They realise this means that they and Han Solo have control over everyone. Dr. Aphra sees the Queen and Luke fighting, and sends the Jedi Rua to help Luke. Meanwhile, Han realises that he is now in control, and orders all of the guards to lower their weapons, and unleash Ktath'atn. At the same time, Luke and the Queen battle mentally, with Rua coming to Luke's aid, telling him how to take over the parasite and control it. He tells Luke to use the emotional drive of the parasite, along with his force powers, to become unstoppable. However, Luke refuses to do what Rua says, stating that Rua only knows what a Jedi knows, and that isn't enough. You must be to be a Jedi. Luke then releases himself from the parasite and kills the Queen with a swing of his lightsaber. Meanwhile, Han is struggling to control the Queen's troops, fighting against the two other higher-ups in the Queen's army. Then, suddenly, everyone with a parasite reels in pain. Leia and Sana take this opportunity to kill one of the leaders of the Queen's army. Then, everyone comes to. Ktath'atn kills another leader of the Queen's army, and Han realises that he's now in control of everyone. He orders that the parasites leave everyone, freeing everyone. 000 then begins removing the parasite from Han. Luke and Aphra reunite with everyone, and BT burns the place to remove all of the parasites. Now, with the day saved, everyone goes on their way, Aphra taking the activated artifact, and Luke telling her to stay away from him and his friends. However, on Ktath'atn, a couple of the locals look around the Citadel for stuff they can sell to make a new life for themselves. One of them stumbles upon the Queen's body. It's a Abersin symbiote attaching onto them. The magic that surrounded the Queen now surrounds them. And with that, that's every comic issue on the Queen of Ktath'atn covered. She's quite a strange character, really. We see things like her draining people's life force, and her dematerializing and rematerializing, but I feel we never get to understand that properly. The Abersin symbiotes are an answer, but we never fully understand that dynamic either. It's an interesting and unique story for Star Wars. As far as I know, there's been no continuation from the new person being taken over at the end of the comic run. So who knows, maybe we'll see some more of this symbiote action soon. Anyway, thank you for watching, and bye.